Hey, how you doing there? I'm Tomlin's back. It's day 252, 365 days towards racial change, and we are going through story time. I like story time, and talking about Tom's, I guess, going through some transition into a new phase in his slave experience, and we're just walking through just along for the ride. So we'll see how that story progresses a little further. Right now, I just want to declare, understand, see where you're at. Um, um, if you're black, and how does your mind function? Do we see or feel a need for this kind of work? Um, is slavery issues of marginalization, uh, being challenged, but based solely on skin color, are those things of the past? Things you don't have to worry about anymore. The things that uh, we should get beyond, get over, and say, look, there's we're over that. Let's move on. Are black people in a space where these challenges are not so, where these challenges, where I'm making too much of this. I wonder, everybody's got to make their own decision, and I agree. I've met black people who feel that they get along very well in the system. Of course, that correlates with how they're doing financially and whatnot. And you find those not doing well economically with more complaints. So there's an economic line there. I recognize that. But I also recognize, I've got even white friends who say, the discrepancy in economics among American peoples is disturbing. It's sad because there is more than enough and all that, but we've created, um, we've stratified our, our existence along economic lines. You know, it favors the whites more than blacks. Things like that are going on. So I don't feel like I'm too far from what I don't know, the essence of a black argument um, for having issues with the American system. We've looked at history, politics, we look at facts. Um, I could feel racism um, and marginalization every time I walk out my door. I believe it's real. And so I feel this project is relevant. Everybody's got to make their own decision. Um, if you disagree with me, thank you for watching. How about that? Now, for the white mind, that privilege, favor, you know, oh, I know you have issues every once in a while. Everybody's got to cross the bear and whatnot. But can you at least admit that there at least seems to be some apparent ease in the way you get along in America and in the world, that you can expect um, some relative safety, ease, favor around. It's just the way it is. It's not a reason to curse or hate or anything like that. But let's just talk about what's real. And white privilege, favor, those expectations are real, and that's good. I wish it was the playing field was much more level, where I don't have to wait decades upon decades to assert myself, to educate and navigate and all this stuff coming at me. There's so much irrelevant, so many lies and stuff. Where for my white counterparts, that's just not the case. They're not. They don't go through that process, and or my white counterparts have experienced this because my guess is that the white folks tend to educate and create that space for their children much more earlier on. As begrudgingly and challenging as that may be, there's still in upbringing of white people, there's still a lot of that, a lot of things I covet and envy that their parents, had. Very important conversations early in life, encouraged important disciplines early in life that I don't know about all black families, but I know most black families don't talk about. I go to like 12-step self-help fellowships, and a common theme that everybody's got is that family doesn't talk and communicate. Well, it's different for white people and black people. My family doesn't communicate the important things at all. A lot of the values I practice, hold to, embrace today, never talked about, encouraged in my home. It was always about not making waves for the grown-ups in power. And there was no reason or logic behind it. We're just quiet over there. That's how I grew up. Not so for a lot of white folks. There's more values instilled, more disciplines instilled, early ages, for the most part. It may seem to them that there was no communication, but those little things would be such an improvement if that was part of my history. I wish I could go to if you're familiar with the movie Total Recall, where they can just implant that stuff in your brain, or like the Matrix, where they can just download it like a computer. Maybe one day we'll have that. That'd be real nice. You know, uh, just the whole computer bank, important disciplines and conversations, and you just can imprint it on a young mind, so the parents can not worry about that. Until then, parents have to communicate, articulate, and most of my white friends have that discipline and those structures implanted in them early in life. One of the main ones is financial literacy. You know, I know that's an important topic. And very, you don't let your kids walk out into the world uneducated about money, but that's what happened with me, and um, I have to grow about and find it on my own. I feel it's more, once I have some information, it's solid, because I've had to work for it and grow up about for it to get it. But to have some of that financial literacy instilled in me early on, well, that would have been such a blessing. I'll get it now. Better late than never. But the financial literacy, some of my white counterparts, includes that they have some of that discipline going on early in life. They expect so much more, and they have more. You know, They make salaries or in positions that I really envy. I know some of that comes from parents who, you know, instilled some knowledge and discipline around money in their lives. That's a good thing, and I'm glad for them. The black community is just crippling in itself with its ignorance and silence, and it doesn't even point the direction what to go. From a parent that doesn't understand or know that I want this child to do well in this world growing crazier by the day, then I'm going to encourage them to use that electronic device to get some education, find some true mentors in the land. Yeah. So my family really blew it in a lot of ways. On that note, I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Please get his works. If you get one, get this one, A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power, and Economic Justice is another one. I've read all these books as well. And Powernomics, Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at Powernomics.com. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You can find black women there conversing and supporting one another, having a conversation. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, Black Facebook experience. If you can't find your flavor here on the World Wide Web, do what I did. Start your own little community and see how far you go, see what happens. We are in story time, Uncle Tom's Cabin, having great conversation points. And that's where we're going to be today. Chapter 30, Slave Warehouse. Tom has just been sold. Marie has liquidated St. Clair's estate, and she's going back home to Daddy. She's washed her hands of this. Her sugar daddy died. She's going back to her sugar daddy, real sugar daddy. Slave warehouse. A slave warehouse, it's not a pigsty. It's not some rundown place where they allow the human form, the black person, to degrade, maybe get heavy and get sluggish. It's very active space because they want the slave to be presentable to these potential slave masters. They want to be clean, well fed. The men are shaved. Um, there are slaves pressed into duty that they work at the warehouse to keep the slaves entertained so that they're not sad and problematic when it comes time for sale. They don't want the slave sitting in the corner contemplating their fate. This is the umpteenth time that they've been sold or experiencing this process. It can wear on a person. So there are slaves in-house whose job it is to keep music going, keep people laughing, and stuff like that. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But it's a clean space and all that. Just like you go out to the store. If you go to the junkyard, you're expecting to see junk and a mess and all this stuff all over the place. Yeah, but if you go to Tiffany's, everything needs to shine, sparkle, catch the eye, dazzle you. That's the same way it was for the slaves at the slave warehouse. The slaves or whatever they came with, they could keep their stuff. Tom is dressed, he was in the house a lot. So he's got shiny boots, he's dressed well, he's got a foot locker, some luggage with him, and he's allowed to keep that. They don't want to distress the slave in any way. You know. But he is one to separate off from the group. Remember, he's got a great relationship with God, and that's working well. It doesn't mean a person doesn't have a process. Don't expect the Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Jew, Shinto, you know, uh, anyone that you count pious and religious not to have their process. Yeah, people snap. That it's the human condition. You know, adherence to religion and God and a way of worship. There's no guarantee that the human condition will not assert itself from time to time. You know, so Tom's depression and all that's appropriate. He's now moving forward. He's had a promise of being freed and back with his family, back up in Kentucky. Now he's where all that's dashed, and he's got to find a way to focus, process, get those issues back together again. Um, like I said, there's entertainment in the slave warehouse. The men, somebody's got a drum or harmonica or something, and all that. And many of the slaves are into that, but Tom wants to get away. Adolph is with him too, so Adolph is getting away too. It's okay, good. They're all over there. I'm the same way. See, I'm a bit of an introvert anyway. And while I like to entertain, I can put a guitar in my hand, I'll sing for you, I can dance and all that for you. But most of the time, I like my solace and my space. You know, I essentially live alone. I'm in a community, but I essentially live alone, and I'm cool with it. A lot I want to do. It'd be nice to have a girlfriend. That's God's working that out, I think. I got a lot going on right now anyway. So Tom's away, but you know, um, this entertainment, this goes all the way back to the slavery times. This is a conditioning tool to keep black folks distracted. I feel sorry for the black folks in the state I live in America, because now we got pot is legal, electronic device will take you hostage, keep you from interacting, keep you from being aware or critically thinking about what's going on around you and in your environment. And I watch a lot of CNN, and you got these people in Washington, as we speak here, making important decisions, policy to affect generations and generations. But we're in our device, smoking weed, on top of alcohol, and if you're like me, you got problems with other drugs. It's not a good thing. And then, it serves to keep the black person passive, uh, uninformed, about what their situation is in the land. It's a very sad circumstance going on there. Um, so there's a slave there named Sambo. He kind of runs the entertainment piece of this slave warehouse. Now Sambo is the nickname of a black entertainer. That's the context that is used here in the book. Now we're going to meet a guy named Sambo a little later on, and it's probably just uh, you know, it's using the nickname to properly name. It's the slave that does the white man's will and makes sure that other black folks are on board with what's going on. So, but that's another guy we'll talk about later. In this instance, the Sambo is his nickname because his function is Sambo, to entertain the slaves, keep them, they didn't work that day and stuff. They didn't get sold that day, so let's keep on. Let's keep the party going. That's that guy. It probably works too. He's probably naturally suited for that. Probably a guy that never shuts his mouth. I personally don't like men that talk a lot, which is pretty incredible. I've been talking for hours and hours here. That's another that's another thing. I'm doing something here. But you got some people, men and women, that just like to talk, have a lot of talk. And, that's Sam. So he's having fun with the group, but like all people of his type, he sees Tom and Adolph over there, and he's got to come on over and find out why they're not participating, and making a joyful noise, smiling, and stuff like that. And Tom and Adolph are like, "Get away from me, dude! You know, shoot me now, because the whole world is upside down." But Sambo's job is he's the motivator of this group in this situation. And so he's injecting, inserting himself uninvited. He's at Tom and Adolph. Adolph is like, whatever, dude, because after Adolph starts talking back to Sambo, Sambo realizes that Adolph has been a house slave. You can tell by his speech. Apparently, Adolph is lighter skinned and stuff like that. So Adolph starts poking at all these different issues. Sambo starts poking at all these issues on Adolph: his skin color, how he's dressed, his speech, and all that. Adolph goes to blows with Sambo, causing the whole house to be in an uproar and a riot at the warehouse. Loves the scene. Sambo's not injured. In walks, slave handler with his whip, and Sambo draws the attention to himself, and so the slave handler, he's got his whip, but he's just swiping at Sambo. It's not nothing. He's not whipping him. He's just swiping at him. That whole place is in an uproar. And the slave handler's like, let's knock it off. Let's knock it off. In this same chapter, slave warehouse, next to the men's quarters is the women's quarters. And in there are two slave women. They're quadroon, octoroon, mulatto. They're light skinned, very attractive. Mother and daughter. Mother named Susan, daughter named Emily. And so they're contemplating their fate. The biggest thing, and we find this all the way through Uncle Tom's Cabin, is this callousness about family relationships among black people. We've read that white people believe black people don't have those values, are incapable of genuine caring about their family and stuff like that. So Susan and Emmeline are really twisted up and worried about what's going to happen to them whenever the auction block gets going again. They worry and worry, and Susan, the mother, is like, she tells her daughter, comb your hair back because it'll make you look a little, you'll be presentable, but your beauty won't be a problem. And this is interesting. Harriet Beecher Stowe. She's later on. She's going to talk about this explicitly, but something we've been hitting around in the whole book is about these the slave women, especially the products of the slave master having sexual relations with the slave woman, producing these light-skinned mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, these are light-skinned females who are very attractive. Right? When I was a kid, I was stuck on one. Like we were in first grade together, but this girl was just beautiful, and I knew it. She's probably even still stunning today. Um, but yeah, the very attractive mixture there. This girl, her father was a black man, her mother was German. Wow, what? And they had 3 daughters who were just. But we talk around this. Harriet Beecher Stowe is talking around this. And it's going to come to a point, and she'll bring it out later in a couple chapters. But these women are very attractive and all that. So Susan is she's concerned for her daughter's beauty and all that. So don't wear your hair in curls because that just makes you more stunning and more attractive. And you'll get bought, but those good looks are a threat to a white establishment. So she encourages the daughter to comb her hair back. Next day, they're ready. Okay, it's time. It's auction time coming out, and the slave handler is like, "Hey, you know, tells Emmeline, let's see some curls. Let's do it up. I know you've got that beauty. Let's bring it out." And so they have to submit. And so Emmeline's got to wear the curls, and she's very young, which is another piece, right? Young, beautiful slave. Wow. So a lot of things are happening there in that moment. So they're ushered out into the yard or whatever. The auction hasn't begun yet, but if you ever go to Cowtown, if you live near Cowtown or farmers market, and there's an auction, you can go in and you can look at the potential merchandise. Even a car auction, you can walk around and stuff like that. Well, same way these potential slave masters are in there looking around. Some of the conversation is like, "Oh, St. Clair's slaves are here," but nobody really wants St. Clair's slaves because they know St. Clair's slaves are a little spoiled and might be difficult to handle. So some of that conversation is going on. Enters a man, very arrogant, dirty, overweight, but brutal, hairy-handed guy. This is Simon Legree. And so he's walking around looking at slaves. He doesn't ask permission. He just walks up, looks in their mouth, checks their teeth. He uses his hands very sensually on young Emmeline, and he likes what he's feeling on her. Out there in the open, things today that would be on CNN and get people fired, demoted, put in jail. The slave masters is handling Emmeline's firm breast and her body and things like that. And his motives are really overt and intentions towards young Emmeline. We go on, and in the end, Susan and Emmeline are separated. Simon Legree buys Emmeline. Tom's is probably one of the finest specimens of the lot. Simon Legree puts his money on Tom and takes a handful of slaves. And the chapter ends. Very matter of fact reporting on the chapter, but that's how it was. The slaves stepped up on a block, stump, or whatever to raise them up. They had to turn around and maybe perform a little bit, and that was it. So just as you're buying cattle, chickens, pigs, and stuff, the way black humans were treated and sold in America. Slave warehouse. That's day 252 out of the way. Not going to hold you hostage. We're just going to go through a couple of these chapters because we're just laying the foundation. We're seeing where's Tom headed, what's his new life going to be like, but it's important snapshots as we just step towards where Tom is going to end up there. Now that he's the property of this apparently brutal white man. We don't know it for sure just yet, but maybe we'll find out in a chapter or two. The demeanor of this slave master. Tom is nigh back. That's day 252 out of the way. 365 days towards racial change. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.